Hello. Welcome back to the couch. I have Travis here with me today. Do you want to tell him a little bit about yourself?
My name is Travis Murao. I play wheelchair rugby with the Canadian national team. I've been playing rugby for 17 years now.
That's so long. That's crazy. It's wild.
With the national team for 12 years.
12 years. Oh my god.
No.
How many international tournaments, like big international tournaments, would you say you've been to?
Oh wow. So World Championships in 2006, 2010, 2014. Those were big ones, and then the Paralympics in London and Rio.
So you've been to 2 Olympics already?
Yeah.
Are you going to try for a third one?
I'm going to try for 4.
You're going to try for 4?
So Tokyo 2020 for sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try for Paris if my body holds up, yeah.
Okay, I'm rooting for you, because that's a lot. It's a lot of Olympics to go.
It's a lot. It's ambitious, but yeah, that's where my head's at right now.
That's awesome. That's so good. And out of all of the parasports that you could possibly do, like, why'd you pick this one?
It was kind of a natural fit for me, where before my accident, I played hockey and football and did judo, and I liked the contact sports. And wheelchair rugby was kind of the only contact parasport out there besides sledge hockey. And it was just a good fit. I had a lot of fun with it. I've always enjoyed team sports, so it's good.
That's awesome. Did you ever play the able-bodied version of rugby?
I never did. It was always the same time as football season in high school, so I never got a chance to, but it looks pretty crazy.
Yeah?
Kind of like wheelchair rugby, yeah.
So I'm not as familiar with wheelchair rugby. I guess, like, walk me through, like, the premise of, like, what that looks like.
Okay, so it differs a lot from able-bodied rugby. We play 4-a-side.
Okay.
We play on a basketball court. You score tries the same way, where you cross the line with the ball.
Yeah.
And the contact's the same, where, you know, they're trying to stop you,
and
stop your forward progress, but we can pass the ball forwards.
Okay.
And we're given a point classification based on our relative level of function.
Okay.
So 3.5 being the most able of us,
Okay.
and 0.5 being the least.
Okay.
So of the 4 players you're allowed on the court, they have to equal 8 points.
Okay.
So that way you have a mix of different function and classifications on the court at the same time.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, it levels the playing field, and it adds like a different level of strategy to the game, where, you know, you have a 0.5 player who has very little muscular function compared to a 3.5 player, but they need to work together to be successful. And I mean, good low pointers, good 0.5s, good ones, they're so valuable on the court. They're like super key to any success you have as a team.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How many of these guys have you played with for, like, a really long time?
We've just had some retirements, and we have a younger team now, but there's a core of 5 or 6 of us on the team right now that have been together for a decade.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's so.
It makes it a lot of fun when. You know, one of the players I played with longest, Trevor, you know, one of my best friends, we've lived in roommates back in the day.
Yeah.
And we both started the sport at the same time, had our accidents around the same time. So, you know, to be able to travel around the world with them and go through all the highs and the lows of sport has been pretty cool. That's
awesome. Where do you think... I know that this sport was kind of, like, invented here in Canada.
Yeah.
Is it popular everywhere else?
Yeah. So in the traditional, like, rugby countries like England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, wheelchair rugby is really big and popular. They have really strong teams and strong traditions surrounding those teams. And I think it's gaining a lot of popularity in some of the other countries. Brazil and Colombia, I know their teams have had a lot of success lately, and they're kind of on the rise.
Oh, that's so good.
And a lot of European countries too.
Do you see kind of that same growth pattern in the para version as you see in the able-bodied version? Like, I know for us, like, we've been very fortunate to be back in the Olympics. with rugby sevens. Has wheelchair rugby always been a parasport, or is that?
So it's the first year that got into the Paralympics was in Atlanta in '96.
Okay.
And ever since then, it's been kind of gaining popularity. It's a really spectator-friendly sport. So now it's one of the marquee parasports in the Summer Olympics, where it usually occurs near the end and in the big stadium. It's always sold out. It's pretty wild to play in front of like a packed stadium.
Yeah. Where has been your most memorable stadium to play in?
So there have been a couple really good ones. I think London in 2012 sticks out, where we weren't expected to do as well as we did. We finished with a silver, and coming in we were ranked, I think, 5th.
Yeah.
So I think the crowds kind of got on board with that, and the GB team got knocked out. So I feel like they kind of rallied around the Canadians. So we were playing to it felt like a home crowd.
Yeah.
And it was packed. It was awesome. And then in the PanAmerican Games in Toronto recently, we were on home soil. We got the gold, and that was really cool to play in front of a home crowd.
That's amazing. So you've won a silver in the Olympics. You won a gold at the PanAmerican Games. How do you guys think, I guess leading up to Tokyo, obviously everyone goes into tournaments wanting to bring home gold. And you mentioned you had some retirement, so the team looks a lot different, but I guess how are you guys doing right now?
We're definitely kind of retooling, rebuilding the team. We've got a really young team now. So we've got World Championships this summer in Australia. And I think we're really realistic about where we are and how we're going to do. So maybe 5th would be a great finish for us. But I think we're doing all the right things, and I think we're heading in the right direction to hopefully challenge for a podium spot in Tokyo.
Oh, that's awesome. How has your accident, I guess, changed how you view sport and the kind of impact that it's had on your life, whether it's been good or bad? But I guess sport, sport for me has always been a tool, right? It's been something that I've been able to pursue because I love it. It's also been, sources of inspiration. It's been an outlet for me to work through things. So I would imagine that might look a little bit different, kind of pre-accident versus post.
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. So pre-accident, I was heavily involved in sports.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was a big part of my life, but it was recreational. I mean, academics kind of took priority over that, and I never really saw a future for myself in sports.
Yeah.
I always kind of put limits on myself. I'm like, well, you're small, you're not super fast, you're strong. There's only a certain level you're going to be able to get to.
Right.
And then after my accidents, playing sports, again, it was the same things. That was my mindset starting out. And once I got more involved, I saw the broader scope of what I was able to achieve in sports. It was all dependent on me and the attitude I brought in and the effort I was willing to put in. But I also saw a whole different side of sports, especially in parasports, where coming out of rehab, it was really tough, where I didn't have a lot of function and I wasn't sure how independent I would be able to be and what my life would look like after my accident. And going out to Wheelchair Rugby and seeing the athletes there and seeing how guys with the exact same amount of function as me, had jobs, girlfriends, cars, and really independent, really normal lives. It really helped me see that for myself. And then also within that sport, they taught me so many things, little tricks and little life hacks for how to get around.
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes to what I was capable of. And I think now it's a really cool is a really cool role that I think all of the veteran guys have taken on themselves, where yes, we're trying to teach the younger generation players like how to play and how to best represent Canada, but we're also showing them our little tricks and how to get around and life stuff. And I think that's a really important part that sports and parasports in particular play.
Yeah. Do you foresee yourself staying involved in the sport long after you've retired as an athlete?
I think I have so much love for wheelchair rugby that I think it would be really tough for me to just walk away completely.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it be coaching or just volunteering, helping out, I think even post like my professional career, I'll still be playing recreationally.
Yeah.
I think lifelong, just stay active because I love it. But I definitely see some involvement in the future.
Yeah, because I know, like on our side of things, you can be involved in the sport for as little or as long as you want to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that will come in and they'll play, and they kind of hit their peak, and then, you know, other life things, you know, kind of take over. You know, they're starting to have families, their careers are really building. You know, they want to explore and do other things, and then there's those of us that just stay involved in the sport for mostly for life. And you know, and it's like for myself, like I've been extremely fortunate to work in rugby for as long as I have and as far up as I have, and you know, possibilities are definitely endless, but I feel like it's something that you really want to have to be involved in post sport, right? Yeah,
I think so. And I think it's great to see for myself, a lot of the older guys who have retired, they're no longer playing with me. I still get to see them all the time playing club ball and traveling around. And, you know, it's funny that, like, they're retired and they're playing, you know, recreationally, but they still have that intensity and they still get just as fired up. And it's great to see, and I definitely see that for myself in the future.
It was funny, I was in Japan last year. You know, I was a little burnt out from work, so I went and traveled, and I went home for a little bit. And what's really interesting over there is there's some of those guys that are still playing in like their 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
The level of contact is dictated by the color of shorts you wear. You know, so I can't quite remember the scaling, but I believe, I'm not like 100% right here, so like don't quote me on this. But I think it's white shorts is like no contact at all, and then it kind of stems down from there. So, you know, you'll have guys that are like in their 60s, 70s, 80s that are still, you know, they're still running around because they love it so much, but it's like, don't tackle that guy. It's not wearing the right color shorts. But this guy over here, like, he's fair game. So in the para version, do they kind of demark out level of contact in any sort of way?
No, they don't at all, but that might not be a bad idea. I mean, I think, too, in the future, when you see older players still playing, I think that would be a great idea. But I think within the sport, there's a high level of respect that you have out there where, I mean, especially when you're not playing internationally, you're playing regionally for fun.
Yeah.
There's some really young players, and nobody's going out there to kill them.
Yeah.
And there's some older guys.
Yeah.
Where you're probably not going to lay a big hit and lay them out.
Hopefully not anyway.
I say most of the time. I mean, it happens sometimes.
I find that it's some of the older players that are just like, you know what, like I still got it.
Yeah.
And they just kind of go for it. You know, like I know for us, like we have the old boys. It's the guys that are over 40.
Yeah.
You know, some of those guys have been playing rugby since they were really little.
Yeah.
You know, but like in their minds, they're just like, I still have the body of a 25-year-old, and I still got it.
I think I definitely have that mindset too, where I'm older now. I'm 35, which is fairly old to still kind of be playing this level. And in my head, I'm still 25.
Yeah.
So I'm still like, oh, I can train hard every day, and I don't need time off, and like, oh, I'm injured, but it'll heal in a couple days, and my body's not quite on the same page as me.
Have you found, you know, because you're obviously like in your mind is still quite like young, right? And you're still very invigorated about competing internationally, representing Canada. But have you found that as you've gotten older, because I know I have, that injuries that would have taken maybe a couple months to heal,
Yeah,
don't anymore?
I definitely have noticed that where, I mean, I was having problems with my neck.
Yeah.
And I thought like it was an injury. And I'm like, man, this is like, it's just been bugging me for the last, couple months, which turned into a year.
Yeah.
And I kept getting it looked at, and finally my doctor was like, well, you're just a whole, like, that's just what happens. I mean, you play a contact sport for a decade, and that's kind of what happens to you.
I love that your doctor is like, no, David, you're just old.
Yeah, like it's just going to be stiff in the morning, and it'll loosen up, and you've got like a little bit of arthritis in there, so.
Oh, I mean, like, I'm not that much younger than you, I'm just about a year younger than you, but, like, I don't want to think about that. Like, I don't want my doctor to just be like, you know what, like, there's nothing actually wrong with you, you're just old.
I've definitely noticed a lot of changes, too, where, like, my hand, for instance, I've got some function in my hand, but not full function.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my pinky finger, like, I can close it,
yeah.
and I can open it. And then this finger just opens, but it doesn't close.
Right.
But this finger used to be my very best finger. Like, it could close and open really strong.
Yeah.
So I could grab things with it,
yeah.
and I could do all kinds of stuff. But I had it was broken really badly in competition. And ever since then, like, it just doesn't close anymore.
No.
So, like, my best finger for everything.
Oh,
and now,
no.
like, it's just
Now,
the worst.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens, sadly.
I know.
Sadly.
Yeah.
How did you? I think when we had chatted earlier, you had mentioned while you were in rehab, that's how you got introduced to this sport.
Yeah. So what happened was I broke my neck snowboarding
Mm-hmm.
when I was 17, and a pretty bad accident, and I was pretty messed up, and my poor parents had to get that phone call where they're like, you gotta get to the hospital. So going through that and then going through rehab, I felt like I was so lucky to be alive then.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped me come into the injury and my post-injury life with a positive mindset. But in rehab, my recreational therapist was Duncan Campbell,
Okay.
who was the inventor of the sport, actually.
Amazing.
Yeah. So once he heard that I had a background in sports and I played a lot of football and hockey and baseball, he's like, you've got to try wheelchair rugby, because he's still very active in recruiting for the sport. So he brought me out to a practice when I was still in a neck brace, still in rehab, and I remember going to the gym, and before I saw anything, I could hear the crashes from the chairs, and I thought, oh my god, this sounds pretty crazy. And watching guys play, getting knocked over, it was really eye-opening for me, just because I didn't know anything about parasports before my accident. So to see a sport that I'd never heard of was really cool, and learning all the rules and everything. And once I started playing, I kind of got hooked, and playing a ton ever since.
Have you tried any other parasports?
Yeah, I've tried almost them all. So I still play wheelchair basketball for fun.
Yeah.
Recreationally with the Victoria team. Go Chargers. And it's a completely different experience where it's purely for fun.
Yeah.
And it's a great time with a great group of great teammates. But in wheelchair basketball, I'm a low pointer.
Right.
So I'm playing with a lot of able-bodied people.
Mm-hmm.
So my role is like so different in basketball compared to rugby, where I'm shooting maybe 2 shots a game.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pass me the ball. I'm just out there playing defense and setting screens.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I also tried tennis too, which I was not great at. And it's just not a sport for me. I'm not an individual sport guy.
Yeah.
I just remember the one big tournament I played in. It was so hot out. And the guy I was playing was just taking forever, and I just remember freaking out and thinking, I'm never playing this.
But it's good to kind of like expose yourself to like different things.
Yeah,
and
for
kind
sure.
of like really see like if this is for you and it brings you some joy, or you know, in the tennis example, if it's something that's definitely not your thing, and that's okay. You know, and I think there's a lot of diversity out there, which is really great. There's a lot of options for people to kind of try out and explore, and really see, you know, if that's a good fit for them or not.
Yeah, I think that's the really cool thing, is that for almost every able-bodied sports there is a parasport equivalent that you can try out, and you know, you don't have to jump into it and play at the international level. Like a lot of stuff you can do just for fun, and I still like hand cycling for fun.
Yeah.
All of those other things, table tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you dabbled in winter parasport?
I have not really. We've talked a lot about possibly curling as a retirement sport. Some of the guys putting together a curling team, but I mean, actually, it's like easier said than done. Where we've seen some of our para curlers, and we're like, oh my god, we're not that good. But I mean, I'm sure that I'll get around to trying them all eventually.
I don't think I've ever been curling before. That's a very un-Canadian thing. I feel like almost everyone else that has moved here,
you gotta give it a shot,
or has lived here, has gone curling. I have never been curling before. If anyone wants to take me curling, I know the winter's almost over, but just putting that out there, I've never actually been. You know, but everyone I've ever talked to is just like, this is actually surprisingly like really fun.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's only a certain amount of sports you can play like with a beer too.
Yeah.
So that sounds good.
Do you have any, I guess, like, you're quite accomplished as a national level athlete. Is there anything out there athletically that is still on the bucket list that you haven't gotten to yet?
Oh, for sure. I think a gold in the Paralympics is the big goal, and like there's a bit of panic in me where I can see my window shortening and the amount of games I have in me left dwindling down, and like facing the fact that I might not ever get there is tough, but it also gives me some appreciation for the success we have had in the past and for how cool those moments have been.
Does the Olympics in Tokyo hold any significance for you?
I think so. I think it holds a lot because I'm a Japanese Canadian descent, where my grandparents are from Japan, but they came over when they were quite young. They were interned during the war, so I think to go back to Japan and compete there would be a pretty special experience.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten a chance to compete in Japan before?
Yeah, I've played. Japan has quite a strong wheelchair rugby team, so they host quite a few events. So usually every year we go there for competition.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate. I got to see the opening round of Super Rugby when I was there last year, and for such an understated crowd, what I mean by that is people are very polite over there.
Yeah.
They're like really into it.
Yeah, they have some super fans there.
Like, they're real into it. There was a guy sitting behind me, and he's like, this is an older guy. He's just like eating his fried fish, just watching the game, just having a great time. And we kind of turned, like my friend and I, she's originally from Hong Kong, and you know, we turned around, we're just like, we're definitely in Asia, watching rugby. You know, like things are very seemingly calm over here right now.
Yeah.
You know, like it's Japan's only Super Rugby team. It's, you know, the Hurricanes were there. They were the reigning champs from the season before from New Zealand. You know, so it's like this is a very much like underdog situation here. But everybody was so into it,
Yeah.
and it wasn't an obnoxious energy. you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about it where it's like, this is really calm energy, but like you can tell that it's like it's really fired up and people are super passionate. And they like stand behind their team, like whether they do well or not.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. And I'm so excited that the Rugby World Cup is going to Japan next year.
Yeah, I think we'll be competing in that.
Yeah, so
Exciting.
it's super exciting to kind of like see it, and people over there are they're just getting so excited to have one of the biggest.
I think Japan's always been one of my favorite travel destinations on our circuit that we go to.
So then where do you guys normally, I guess like where is your circuit base? Like I know in our able-bodied, for sevens anyway, the HSBC circuit usually starts in Dubai and it kind of like goes around and it ends up. So where does your guys' circuit start?
So our international rugby season is kind of different every year.
Okay.
Where like there's Paralympic years, there's World Championship years, and there's the off years in between.
Okay.
So our international travel schedule like is really dependent on who's hosting World Championships or where the Paralympics are going to be, and then they're centered around a couple big international events. Where Canada hosts one. Great Britain usually hosts one, and Australia usually hosts something in Japan. So that's kind of the rough outline, and then the other tournaments get filled in depending on who's hosting what.
And how long are your guys' tournaments generally?
We usually play a tournament, a big one, out over the course of 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
With 1 or 2 games a day. It's usually a round robin.
So it's a similar format to sevens.
Yeah.
How long is a wheelchair rugby game?
So we play 4 8-minute stop time quarters.
Okay.
So the average game will last about an hour and a half.
Okay.
And we have 12 men and women rosters.
Yep.
It's a co-ed sport, and 4 aside at a time. And you're cycling players in and out to keep people fresh. So it's a great team game.
Oh, that's amazing. I've never had a chance to try it. I have watched it. Funny enough, when we met, I happened to be at the Olympic Oval that day when there was a tournament going on. I was sitting in a high performance clinic, and our facilitator for our clinic, he was like, "Hey, if you guys happen to stick around, there is a wheelchair rugby tournament going on here this week." So he's like, "Head on." I don't remember if it was upstairs or downstairs from like where we were.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Go check it out if you have a chance to." So I didn't have to run back to work for another couple hours, so I like stuck around and watched. And it's such an interesting premise because it's a little bit more, I would say, in line with sevens for us, more so than 15s.
Yeah.
Just the way kind of like the pacing is, the amount of players on field at a time is a little bit more similar to sevens.
It's crazy how much the sport's changed over the years too. Where when I started, things were a lot slower, a lot more set pieces, and the strategy was so different than now, where it's definitely turned to a speed game. The technology in the chairs has gotten really crazy, where the wheelchair rugby chairs we play in now are nothing like the ones we played in when I started.
Yeah.
They're strong, but they're lightweight. They're super responsive. The way we're strapped in and the bracing that we use, you really feel like you're one with the chair.
Yeah.
And the speed change has been incredible, where athletes are just so much faster and stronger. And I mean, a lot of it has to do with the chairs, but also people have a greater understanding of how to train and proper nutrition and all of those things.
Yeah.
So the game is getting really, really fast.
Yeah, because we see that on our side as well. Like if you look at athletes from even 15 years ago and you compare them to the athletes that you see now, that difference is quite profound. You know, the guys are getting a lot bigger, they're getting a lot stronger.
Yeah.
The game pace itself is a lot faster.
Yeah.
The way that World Rugby has kind of amended the laws allows for a much more free-flowing game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot less stoppages. It flows a little bit faster, and so in turn, that just the overall pacing of it is much faster.
Yeah, we've seen that in our sport too, with some small rule changes, and just to really increase the speed of the game.
Yeah. Has it been hard to keep up?
Yes. When I started, I wasn't a big guy, and it just seems like I'm shrinking over the years.
I don't know what they feed the kids of today.
I know. We had a young superstar player, Zach Medell, in Canada, and he started playing, I think, when he was 16.
Yeah.
And already he was much bigger than me. And then watching him grow, like now, seeing him, I mean, he's humongous. He's covered in hair. Like, man.
Some of those kids, you see them like over the course of the summer, and they've just like, hey, you've now grown like a foot.
Yeah.
You have now grown out this way by like half a foot to a foot. You're like a man, because you're not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
You kind of still act like a child a little bit, but like you are the body of a man. It amazes me just how quick that changed, and it also amazes me just how much bigger the athletes are getting now.
Yeah. And I don't know, for me it's really helped keep me hungry and motivated, where I know that I have to work really hard and I have to stay on top of my nutrition, all of those things if I want to keep competing at this level.
What do you do to motivate yourself on days where you don't want to train?
I think that's always a struggle, but for me, I've been really lucky where I train out of 2 training centers here in Vancouver and in Toronto. And in both centers, I have great teammates who we keep each other honest and accountable, and we keep each other working hard in the gym. And there are also 2 different dynamics, which really helps keep things fresh for me, where in Vancouver, I train with Trevor and Byron and Fabian, and we're all veterans, we're all older guys who've been around, and we're always pretty open and honest with each other when someone's not working hard.
Yeah.
Someone needs to pick it up, and it's a great dynamic for training, and I've had a lot of success in that environment. And then in Toronto, that's one of my newer training groups. I'm there with some younger athletes where I feel like I have the responsibility to kind of lead by example and to get into the gym first and to work hard and to push the other guys and kind of show them the right way to do things. So it's 2 different environments that both, I think, really help.
Because there's definitely days that I know that like the struggle is real.
Oh yeah.
Getting out of bed is hard. Getting like just dragging ass to the gym is hard. And then there's days when you're there and you're just like your brain's just not, it's just not in it. I was at training a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys, he's with our premier team, and he's a young guy, he's about 24. He's a good rugby player. He's big. He's naturally talented. And when I saw him at the beginning of training, he's like, he's super enthused, and kind of by the end, he's like, no, I just lost you.
Yeah.
He's just, I was like, how was training? He's like, oh, it did not go well. You just kind of like, you lose steam. But like, how do you find, like, what do you find works for you when you're at a point where like, you start off pretty good and you just kind of like...
For me, what helps to keep the intensity up and to keep our focus up is to make it fun.
Yeah.
Where when we go into training, we're joking around, we're having a good time. Yes, we're working hard, yes, we're keeping each other honest and accountable, but it's to do that without losing sight of the fact that it's a pretty great job we have, and we're pretty lucky and fortunate to be able to do it. And I mean, we all love the sport, and we all love to play, so why shouldn't training every day be a blast?
You had mentioned that you had some aspirations to coach. Do you coach now?
No, not really. I mean, every once in a while I'll step in and help out when they need someone to coach a regional team. But yeah, I definitely want to finish my level 2 coaching and get my feet wet more there and pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like rugby in Canada, they're starting to have a need for more coaches on the club levels.
Mm-hmm.
So to step in there would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's tough when you're focused on performance and on world championships and
Mm-hmm.
Olympics. So I think in the future that'll definitely be something to step into more.
I definitely think, as a former player, like having coaches that are passionate, really helps. And then now that I've stepped away from high level play mostly, like I still play high level 7s, but to kind of like step away from that and just wear the coaching hat. It's a really interesting experience when you're now the one that is, technically working with athletes and helping to keep their passion alive so that they keep the sport going and they keep like fueling the growth.
So as an athlete stepping into a coaching role,
Yeah.
do you think it's all positive and helpful, like having the athlete frame of reference for coaching?
I definitely do. Like I mean, some of the best coaches I've had did not play at the international level.
Yeah.
And then in turn, some of the really great coaches I've had have played at the international level, but all of them have played the sport in some fashion or form for quite a long time, and they bring that perspective. And as long as coaches are willing to continually learn and know that, like, as technology advances and as the knowledge of human physiology, like how to build your body better and stronger, how to repair it when it's not working as well, how to fuel your body more efficiently, and things like that, how to work on, that mental aspect, the sports psychology, to kind of keep athletes that are in that high performance, high intensity training cycle, how to keep them sane. As we get better at doing all those things, we get better at knowing how to adapt to those things. I think as long as coaches are willing to continually invest in themselves to learn those things, having the kind of that athletic framework, that mindset, super helpful, because you can think back to yourself and be like, hey, like I was 18 at one point, or I was 21 at one point in my life, and these are the things that I struggled with. So you're a bit more empathetic to athletes you're working with, because you're kind of like, hey, I've been there and I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
But like, here's how we can help you to get to that next step, or like how we can help you like get past if you're in a bit of a slump, like how we can help you get through that.
I think that's a cool thing we're seeing in our sport, where when I started, all of the coaching and all of the coaches were not former players.
Mm-hmm.
They were just kind of coaches from other walks of life who started coaching wheelchair rugby, and now we're starting to see our first crop of international coaches who were former players, and I think it makes a big difference, where, like you said, they have that empathy for you as an athlete, and they understand the struggles you're facing, and they can help with like how they themselves overcame those same things. So I think it's really cool to see former athletes in coaching roles.
And I definitely think it's really good to kind of see athletes step in to those roles at a variety of different levels.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be at the high performance level, but to have someone that's super passionate, develop that next kind of grassroots generation, right? If you don't have a very strong grassroots base, like you can't fuel the high performance base because you have no one to farm up. But you need passionate people who, want to develop people, and they want to keep that kind of fire going. On our side, like officials, having really good quality refs, trying to get people into the reffing stream is particularly quite hard, because a lot of times younger guys, they're just like, they want to still be playing.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that I've seen that have been extremely successful at officiating, it's because they cannot play anymore.
Yeah.
They've been kind of like their doctors are like, you physically like cannot do this anymore. You know, so that's another way to kind of stay involved in the sport if coaching is, you know, really not your thing. So I'm always really excited when I talk to coaches that are young and they're super enthusiastic and like, they really want to be there and they want to soak up as much knowledge as they can. And in the kind of realm of coaching, like I am very young. I've been doing it for a while, but you know, I don't have 20 years, 30 years professionally under my belt or anything like that. See, you know, so when you talk to some of these guys, like, you know, their professional playing career was like 20 years, and then their professional coaching career has already been like 20 or 30 years. Like they've just been around for a very, very, very long time, and it's nice to kind of see, you know, coaches that are in our age bracket that are.
Do you think that because you're younger and you're not so far removed from your playing career, maybe you have some fresher insight into like strategy and that kind of thing?
I definitely think so. I mean, like when I started playing rugby, the cadence in the scrum was a lot different than what it looks now.
Yeah.
The distance between the two front rows is a lot bigger, so the impact initially was much harder.
Yeah.
So the strategy back then was, you know, you'd throw your biggest guys in the tight five, you'd throw some like super fast guys in the back row, but like size wasn't, you know, generally they were a bit bigger than your backs would be quick, but they'd generally be quite small. If you fast forward to now and you look at the size differential between our tight five, back row, and our backs, a lot of those guys are around the same size, regardless of what position that they're in.
Yeah.
So the strategy becomes a little bit different. So having kind of been involved in that time period where, okay, like you're a big guy, like you're gonna be like a prop, like that's your life. Whereas now it's kind of like we have guys that are big that are props, but we also have flankers that are almost as big as the props. The only difference is they're just a lot more mobile.
Yeah.
You know, guys are starting to get a lot faster. I know in sevens, there's a lot of teams out there. I don't know if they do this for you guys, but they put the GPS trackers in the back of the jerseys to be able to see if you can stay at your VO2 max velocity for however long, percentage-wise. And when they test your speed, it's like if you're not fast enough, like you either go and you play at a lower level or you go hire a speed coach to get faster. Yeah. Or you're not playing at this level anymore because you can't, because that's what that standard has been at. So kind of having that insight as a player that's not as far removed means strategically I can look at things and be like, okay, especially if I'm working with athletes that are under 25, a lot of those athletes, some of them have hit kind of their physical, not their physical peak, but it's kind of like, this is as tall as you're gonna get. This is probably like as big as you're gonna get. Like we can put on some mass on you, but you're not gonna be, your body isn't gonna be heavily changing like it did in your adolescence. And you know, when they're kind of, athletes are kind of in that 16 to 19 age pool, even up to 21, like that's when their bodies are changing the most. Right? It's kind of like you might be able to, you know, like we might easily be able to pack on 30 pounds of mass on you. Yeah. Because your body is just already in that changing mode. Yeah. So if we shift its focus a little bit, like we can make these substantial physical changes. We can change your speed, we can adjust your diet, and all of those things. So strategically, you look at players being like, okay, I can use you here right now, but in a couple years' time, this is probably where you're going to be a better fit. Yeah. It's no longer like this is where you are and this is where you're going to stay for the duration of your career. Do you see kind of parallels in that sense in the parasport world? For sure. I think, especially with a team like ours, where we have a huge range now, where our youngest player is 18, and our oldest with our national team is 40. Okay. That's quite a big spread. It's a crazy range. So within there, like,
your role over the course of your career is going to change.
Yeah.
Where, starting out, you're an energy guy.
Yeah.
And you're coming in and, you're using your speed and your explosiveness and creating an impact on the game. And then as you get older, you're coming in as a tempo change.
Right.
To play more of a ball control game and to use your experience and your technical knowledge to exploit other teams who maybe don't have that same experience or the same rugby IQ as you.
Right.
So it's been cool for myself to see my game evolve over the years, where I'm now able to use the speed I do have so much more effectively than I was when I started.
Sky's the limit, obviously, right? Because we're shooting for 2020 Tokyo.
Yeah.
Hopefully Paris after that.
Yeah.
I guess in closing, like, people want to know more about you. They want to know more about the sport.
Yeah.
Where can they go?
I think a great place to start would be cwsa.ca, and that's the Canadian Wheelchair Sports Association website. We're going to be rebranding soon to Canadian Wheelchair Rugby. And I think that's a great resource to follow Team Canada and our adventures and where we're traveling to next. And also on Instagram and Twitter, if you follow Wheelchair Rugby Canada, you'll be getting updates.
Amazing.
On where we're going.
Awesome. Where are you guys off to next?
Denmark. We leave for Denmark on Sunday.
On Sunday, Denmark.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. And that's all in preparation for World Championships this summer.
Awesome. And World Championships are in Australia?
In Australia, in Sydney, in August.
It's hot as balls in Australia in the summer. For anyone who's never been in Australia.
You don't think that'll be their winter though?
Like, it's their winter, it's still quite warm.
It's still going to be hot.
It's still warm. Like, don't let that winter branding fool you. It's not actually that cold there in the winter. Well, good luck in Denmark.
Thank you.
I look forward to kind of like seeing like what you guys are up to while you're over there. So again, websites, you can check out Twitter, Instagram, Canadian Wheelchair Rugby, and the other website,
cwsa.ca.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Travis, for being on here. Look for this episode to be dropping pretty soon. And, stay tuned, come back every couple weeks as I have honest conversations on the couch with other people. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for listening to this new podcast venture that I've started, The Athlete's Wandering Couch. Now, you're probably wondering why I named it that. When you don't have permanent recording studio space, you kind of make do with what you got. And so what ended up happening was I moved around to other people's couches and bam, where's the name. So I'm really excited to be launching this venture. And if you liked what you heard and you wanted to know more, check the links down below. You can find this episode on our YouTube channel at The Athlete Directive. You can also find this on iTunes, Google Play, and Soundcloud at The Athlete's Wandering Couch podcast. Travis Murao, thank you so much for being on the episode, and I hope that you guys tune in. We'll be releasing episodes every 2 weeks. By the way, to celebrate the launch of this podcast, it's actually my birthday today. So thank you all so much for your unwavering support, and if you want to give a birthday gift to me, subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. Bye.